So yeah, I'm Chloé. Very nice to meet you, and thanks again for the invitation. I'm based at the Paris office of Reporters Without Borders, and it's about 4 years that I'm collaborating on the Journalism Trust Initiative. So I'm very happy to be able to explain to you this afternoon what's the Journalism Trust Initiative and how we can help citizens to navigate the information space and hopefully gain back trust in the journalistic contents. So all this project from the Journalism Trust Initiative came from one observation was about how to recognize journalistic contents online among the ocean of content with advertisements, private messages, and all the hopscotch of messages we have. How to recognize professional journalistic contents. And second question was who should decide what's a journalistic content? Is it on tech platforms to make a specific hierarchy on who's a journalist and who's not? Is it state that should do it? There was no clear signal to make it official. So from these two observations, the idea came with to have a very practical solution, which is actually a signal, like an international signal that would help citizens, platforms to be able to make the journalistic content valuable and more accessible. And that's what we're trying to do here with the Journalism Trust Initiative. We built an international standard for media transparency and professional practices in order to reward professional content. Just a brief background about how it's been built. It's not only an initiative from Reporters Without Borders. Of course, the idea was to gather with many different organizations to build together this standard. So we collaborated with more than 100 media and organizations during 2 years to define the set of criteria, of 130 criteria of this international standard. So you can see here on the screen some of the media participating into this exercise of the standard creation. One important point, it's a bit technical, but in 2019, it's been approved by the European Committee for Standardization that gives the legal weight of the standard. It's an international standard. It's not only European, but that's been approved by this committee. So now who can use the standard and how it can be useful? The first idea was to use it for tech platforms in the algorithm indexation. So we're now collaborating with tech platforms and different websites in order for journalistic contents to be able to be rewarded in the algorithm indexation. So we're collaborating with Microsoft on the search engine Bing to include this signal and make it happen that the media outlets that are respecting this standard, becoming compliant with the standard, are rewarded in the algorithm indexation on the search engine Bing. We also work with other different actors, tech actors, always in the same way to be able to identify media outlets that show transparency and respect professional practices and to get benefits to them. So for example, we work with an app which is called Vera. And it's basically a system where on WhatsApp, where you ask any questions and this app is answering to you if the fact is verified or not. And that provides a label of Journalism Trust Initiative for the media that are part of it. We also collaborate with news aggregators, same to be able to identify differently these media outlets that respect the standard. So in Europe, there is Caffeine or Yep News, and the media that are compliant with the standard have a specific label that I will show you after. And eventually on social media, there is a new social media called Chloé, working in Europe, and same, they identify with a label the content that come from specific media outlets that are compliant with the Journalism Trust Initiative. And from what we heard by this social media platform, there's 10 times more reshare on the links and content that have been shared that have this Journalism Trust Initiative label. So that's a start. Our goal is to onboard more and more tech platforms and different actors to use the signal and make it accessible to every citizen. We also want to collaborate with advertisers in order for ads budgets to go towards media outlets that are showing transparency on their practices. And finally, for philanthropic donors and newsrooms that are supported by this philanthropic funding, that's also a way to identify professional actors in the media sector and get additional support from these philanthropic foundations, for example. That's particularly useful for crisis environment where these donors can identify in a quicker way these media outlets. So very briefly, how does it work for a media to become compliant and obtain this label, the Journalism Trust Initiative? This is a questionnaire about transparency, but this is not evaluating any contents, neither the journalists that are part of the newsroom. It's not judging the quality of the content. It's really on the transparency and practices. So you have 3 steps. The first one is about the self-evaluation. So the media has to answer questions about identity. So who is in the media? Who's the ownership? What's the management? Is there a potential conflict of interest? What are the different sources of revenue of the media? And the second part of the assessment is about how you work. So what are the professional practices? Is there any editorial charter? Is there what is the treatment of the sources? What are the mechanisms for accountability? And for example, very practical, if there is a mistake, which can happen, how this is corrected and how this is communicated to the audience. So the self-evaluation is basically on these topics. So really not on the contents, neither on the journalists themselves. If you want to take a look at the questionnaire, it's obviously free and open to everyone. So you can just connect on this website, create a short account, and then you can discover the 130 questions of the assessment. It basically looks like this, and you have 18 categories of question to question yourself on the different practices of the newsroom. Once the questionnaire is filled, you have the opportunity to publish it as a transparency report, and that's something that can be very useful to show the practices and the way you're working to your audience. Same, that's free, and that's just at the end of the questionnaire. And as an option, you have the opportunity to obtain the official Journalism Trust Initiative certification. And for this, we collaborate with 19 audit firms across the world that basically come and verify the declaration that have been made into the evaluation questionnaire. This certification is valid for 2 years in order to keep being updated on the newsroom's practices. Very briefly too, who's involved in this initiative. So we're present in 120 countries, and there are more than 2,400 media that are in the assessment process. So you can see on the right different media that obtain the certification. And the great thing is that this can be a label that can be used by all different types of media. You can see France TV, the public broadcaster, Inside Story, investigative media in Greece, as well as Studio Kalangu, which is a community radio in Niger. So the criteria are similar for every newsroom and should be accessible to every media. Now, just to ensure the final goal of this initiative is, of course, to be able to identify media outlets that respect transparency standards, but also to make it available to citizens, for the citizen to be able to have a compass and to navigate the information space. So basically, the idea is to have, as you can see here on the screen, to use the mechanism that has been used, for example, for fair trades or for bioagriculture, but we use it for the media ecosystem, and be able to have this label for citizens to orientate and have access to how the media work and who's behind. So for this, we are preparing a specific campaign that should be launched in September 2026 that will be dedicated to the citizens. So there will be print, TV, and online communication to explain what is this certification and which information as a citizen you can have regarding the media outlets that you're interested in. But the best ambassadors so far of the initiative are the media themselves, the ones that have obtained the certification. So you can see here, for example, same the Media Studio Kalangu that shows the certification in the footer of the webpage of their website. If you click on it, then you have access to their transparency reports and basically to the answers of every question, who they are, how they work, what are their editorial processes. Swiss Info in Switzerland that's made a series of videos to talk about how they work, what are their editorial processes, and how the Journalism Trust Initiative certification can help them. And eventually, El Espectador that made a specific ceremony that was live for their audience to explain again how they work and how the Journalism Trust Initiative helped them to structure their internal practices and be able to share this with the audience. So we see that the newsroom are doing their own work to communicate with their audience, to be more transparent and start to really explain how they work and how professional the practices are.